What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today we are inside the Tyrauku test server account, hence the reason why I have a little over 1 million gems. My bank account does not support having 1 million gems on my main account, though I would love it. Even if I could, my wife would not approve of it at all. 1 million gems, that is a lot. And today we will be testing out Fylja. This is according to Google Translate. That's how you say the name.
Fylja.
So that's what we're going to be going with, okay, guys? Some of these names, I got to say, they're getting harder and harder to pronounce. Some of them, I'm not even going to attempt it, okay? I'm from Kentucky. These are a little past my range of names that I'm comfortable with saying, okay? So Lydia, good. Lysandra, good. Molly, good. Some of these, they're getting a little too far out there, I got to say. This one I can handle, though. Some of them, a little more. This Paladin chick, I do like her. But today, we're going to be talking about Fylja, all right? So Fylja is part of the Fox Hunter Fusion coming up Thursday or Friday, I believe. I basically want to get a champion guide, champion overview of each one of these champions that are the epics involved in the fusion before the fusion actually happens. Now, if you're watching this video a month down the road, none of that's going to apply to you. And I just want to give you a highlight on how you could build these champions if you decide, if you have them, if you want to build them, or if they're even worth building or investing into. And if you're going for the fusion, if they're worth keeping, or if you should just dump them into the fusion and get him instead. But today, let's spotlight Fylja. So I have her masteries finished. These are the masters I'm running right now. I don't necessarily think that this build is the best. Let me back up a little bit. So we do have Helm Smasher at the very bottom there. The mastery setup basically is just some accuracy, typical nuke setup. I do have this ability. I like it very much. She really cycles through her abilities very quickly. But to be honest, you can go with really any build you want here. Mix and match, suit it. Customize it to your account and how you want it to perform. Maybe you want to use her in Clan Boss, pick up War Master. So don't take this as like the hard set mastery setup. This is just what I'm going with for the testing. This one down here is kind of a dead mastery. So customize it to your playstyle. Let's look at her abilities and then we'll look at her artifacts and I'll talk about her gearing. And her current gear set is built for damage. I don't think that's the most optimal way to use her. And if I keep her on my free-to-play account, I'll probably change it up a little bit. But her A1 ability attacks one enemy 2 times, decreases the target's max HP by 10% of damage inflicted. Nothing crazy special there. It actually hits fairly decent. I don't know what the multipliers are. They're not released yet, but cannot decrease a single enemy's max HP by more than 50%. That would be quite a bit because it's decreasing by 10% of the damage inflicted. So you would have to do, you'd probably kill the enemy before you decrease their HP by that much, right? The A2 ability attacks one enemy, has a 75% chance of fully depleting the target's turn meter. This ability smacks. Like you're going to see in the arena, we're going to jump in there. This ability hits hard, but it also, when fully booked, 100% chance of fully depleting the target's turn meter. So it's a very, very nice ability to have. I think she's going to be possibly pretty good on my free-to-play account. I may even keep her. Things like Spider, any dungeon where you can decrease the turn meter, very, very solid, right? Spiders, I think she's going to have a lot of value. But yeah, so her A3 ability attacks all enemies, fills this champion's turn meter by 15%, and heals them by 15% of the damage inflicted if this attack is critical. Now, when it says heals them, it means heals her, not the enemies, okay? So she's not healing the enemies after she attacks. So it's kind of weird wording in this ability in general. So when I first looked at this ability, I was thinking, okay, so she's doing an AoE attack, 15% turn meter. That's not that great. But if you look at another champion, Shield Guard, he has an ability that is worded, I believe, the correct way. Where is he at in the Barbarians? So you go down here to his ability. A Shield Guard A2 ability attacks all enemies, fills his champion's turn meter by 20% on each critical hit. That is how her kit should read because that is exactly what it does. It doesn't do it 15% turn meter fill. So I'm hoping Plarium is just misworded that. And it didn't actually mean for it to be just a 15% turn meter fill because obviously one's a 15% turn meter fill and the other is like a potential 100+% turn meter fill depending on where you're at in the game, right? So this ability is actually really good. And when you get it fully booked, it's a 3-turn cooldown, but it kind of acts as a less because you're getting a turn right after. So everything on our kit, she's going to be cycling through very, very quickly. And we'll see that in action once we get into dragons, once we get into all the different areas we're going to test her in. So her passive ability is also really cool. You don't have to technically bring Arbiter in the arena if you don't have her, if you're a lower player and you don't have anybody to do the increased attack. Maybe you're using Haikatune and Apothecary for your increased speed, or Haikatune plus War Maiden. She'll give herself increased attack and increased crit damage as long as she has 2 or fewer buffs at the start of the turn. So if you bring like a Duchess or a Siphi, she's not going to do this because they give her 3 buffs. Obviously, Duchess gives the increased attack, Siphi does not. But if this champion, so that's the passive ability, happens every turn. It's very nice, happens for 1 turn, but it makes sure she has that increased attack and the increased crit damage on her. Now, as far as her artifacts go, I wanted accuracy, and then I wanted savage. Honestly, this is more or less my best gear on my account as far as savage plus perception. This is what my Leoris was wearing, so an arena nuker already. So take that for what you may. When you see her damage in action, it's going to be maybe higher than what you gear for, or maybe lower than what you can gear for. All depends on your account, right? But to be 100% honest, if I use her on my free-to-play account, I'd probably be focusing on relentless gear as well as perception gear. Her books are pretty heavily needed. Her A2 ability, you really want to book this, obviously, because 75% chance feels like it misses more often than it should. So you definitely want, especially when you really need it to happen, right? So I would definitely try to book this ability, probably the most valuable. This A3 ability, also, you really want to book that as well because she's going to get another turn, helping to essentially lower the cooldowns of all the other abilities because she's taking back-to-back turns, assuming she's critting on everybody. So this ability is pretty important, obviously. Honestly, her entire kit is pretty important to book, but the A2 and the A3 are going to be the biggest and most important ones. I think the A2 getting the most value and the most priority. So if you fully book that, if you're really close on books, just chill. Don't worry about fully booking everything. It just depends on where your books are at on your account. You're probably going to want crit rate, crit damage, crit rate gloves, or crit rate substats across your account. All depends on where your account is at. If on my free-to-play account, I'd probably put crit rate gloves, relentless plus perception. Make sure her accuracy is at a level appropriate for whatever dungeons I was doing. And then get some damage if I could, but honestly, I wouldn't be worried about her doing damage. Most likely, I would just be worried about her getting that turn meter boost as well as this turn meter decrease whenever from her A2 ability. So you got to make sure she has good perception, but I currently have her in Savage gear. We'll click on all these pieces just in case you're curious as to what's going on with the pieces, what the substats are looking like, what the main stats are looking like. Like I said, this is not like the optimal gear that I would put on her if I was actually going to use her in content, but it's good nuker gear. It's going to show you guys some big numbers. We all like seeing big numbers. And to be honest, her A2 ability actually surprised me with how hard it could hit. First, let's go ahead and jump in here in dungeons, okay? So we'll go to Spider's Den. Actually, no. Let's show you guys some fairly big numbers, okay? So stage 20 of dragons. I don't really care about the boss. I'll go ahead and throw Frozen Banshee in here just so we can kill the boss because we have no poisoners here, right? No poisoners whatsoever. We'll throw Frozen Banshee in, and obviously we do have turn meter reduction from Lysandra, but here I want to showcase the damage, okay? So watch how much damage she does from her A3 ability. She'll take a turn right after this, so Frozen Banshee, 13k each time. 55, 65, that's a pretty decent hit. I mean, granted, they do have decreased defense and weaken. She placed the increased attack plus increased crit damage on herself. But I gotta say, that damage is actually pretty good. Now, granted, she is in Savage gear, and you may not be building her for that content. I guess her Cycle of Violence proc there, so she got a lower cooldown on that. I'm not 100% sure what happened, but she does take quite a bit of turns, so I kind of lost track as well. Her A2 ability, let's see what it hits here. I think she's about to use that. It should be off cooldown. No, okay, so one more turn cooldown. I guess she slipped it in there when I wasn't paying attention. So you guys probably already seen it, but let me show you again in just a second. So we'll go ahead and use the A2 first. So let's hit Apothecary. Well, no, actually he has no decreased defense or weaken, so we're just going to see what it does just straight out. 75,000 damage. So imagine if decreased defense and weaken was on there, it would hit for well over 100k. It was doing that earlier. So it's a pretty significant hit. Obviously with this shield buff on her as well. Who's giving that to her? Oh, Lydia is. So she's not getting that self buff each turn. So her A3 ability here with no increased crit damage or increased attack, unfortunately. 60k, 81k, that's pretty solid hits, right? Pretty solid hits. But like I said, you may not be gearing her for damage. Just depends on where you want to use her. 68k on the A1 ability. She did get the increased attack and increased crit damage from there. So she can do pretty easy wave clear, getting up to the dragon. So if you're stuck in progressional content like this, if you need help getting through the waves, I think she's a very solid option. The A3, like I said, hits pretty hard. She's got good self-sustainability because she's healing from how much damage she dealt. 100,000 damage, daggone, from that A3 ability. She's getting turn after turn after turn. But I think the bigger area, Dragon, she's going to be good. Fire Knight, she's going to have good turn meter decrease. She has a 2-hitter on the A1 ability. I don't have a Fire Knight team built for her, but Fire Knight stage 20 is Force Affinity, so she's going to be weak affinity there anyway. So maybe if you're doing stage 25, she could maybe help, but probably not. Fire Knight might be a little difficult because you're not going to be able to do stage 20 with appropriate affinity. You can try it out. She does have full turn meter decrease, so it could help, but the rest of her kit doesn't really play with Fire Knight great. Spiders, though. I think Spider, this champion, will actually be... If you're struggling with Spider, I think this is where you'd be like, okay, maybe I should keep this champion over somebody else, or maybe I should get an extra copy of this champion or something along those lines, right? This team right here, obviously not the most optimal. If I was building her specifically for Spider, what I would do is I would throw in Relentless, or I would get her as fast as I could, but keeping her accuracy at 10 times the stage number. So if I'm doing stage 20, 200 accuracy. If I'm doing stage 16, 160 accuracy, and so on and so forth. So make sure accuracy is good. I would try to get her as fast as possible. I wouldn't want her to do much damage, depending on what strategy I was running. With this team, doing a lot of damage to the spiderlings is perfectly fine. However, if I was using a burn team, I would want to make sure that her crit rate was 100% because obviously I want her turn meter to be boosted from that A3 ability, but I would be making sure her crit damage was very low. I wouldn't be worried about her attack that much. Honestly, if I could get her to not place that attack, I'd be perfectly fine with that because you want the spiralings to stay alive in that case, right? But here, with 2 royal guards, it doesn't matter. We don't have decreased defense or weakened, so they're not going to kill them super fast. I wasn't necessarily wanting this to be a speed run. I just threw a team randomly together to see how she would perform. So she boosted her turn meter, back-to-back turns, and full turn meter decrease on the spider. That's so good. Now, if we had Armiger, if we had Coldheart, obviously with her, unless you have her built fast enough to take into consideration that the spider may get back to her turn, take a turn before she gets back to that A2 ability, keep that in mind. But if you aren't able to gear her to be that fast, just bring in an Armiger, bring in a Seal of the Drakes. Make sure you have somebody with a decreased speed debuff. It's going to help out a lot. Bring in Finchy, maybe. He could possibly even work. Granted, he has weak affinity on stage 20. Coldheart, obviously, is going to be great. Any single target decreased turn meter champion. Now, you can't bring Allure because Allure is going to be spreading her decreased turn meter everywhere. But if you can bring an extra decreased turn meter champion in there, I think you're going to be perfectly fine. A fast Fylja? How do you say that name again? Dagnabbit.
Fylja.
A fast Fylja alongside another turn meter decreased champion, I think will be all you need. Now, of course, it depends on how fast your spider run is, so on and so forth, but her being able to cycle through that stuff so quickly is very, very nice. Throw some refresh accessories on her, get her lower cooldown on that A2 ability. I think she has good potential. Like, she is a champion who I'm considering keeping on my free-to-play account, depending on how the events line up and everything like that. But I think she does have value, especially in progressional content. Now, later on in the game, obviously, if you're not going through progressional content, I don't know if she's going to be bringing a ton of value to you, but watch right here, okay? So this 2-turn cooldown right now, we're going to zap everything. Big turn meter boost, of course. Another turn back-to-back. 1-turn cooldown left on this. If we had a refresh accessory, the Cycle of Violence is helping me possibly lower the cooldown, but anything like that would help. Now remember, she's 175 speed. So if she was 200, or if she was 190 speed with a 30% turn meter or speed boost from Apothecary, from Haikatoon, anybody, she would be going a lot more turns. She would really be keeping this turn meter down, but it just really depends on your gearing of your account and everything like that. So we would probably want to focus the A2 ability to go first because, and I think her AI initially uses that A3 ability first, but if you think about it, if you use that A2 first, you're going to start it off, it's going to be on cooldown, then you're going to use that A2 or the A3 the next turn, basically get another turn, helping you get the cooldown of the A2 ability back as soon as possible. So here, we'll go ahead and zap everything, get another turn, and then boom, 2-turn cooldown on that, and then hopefully get back to that as soon as possible. So you can play around with your AI settings, everything like that. But let's go ahead and jump into the arena for the last little area to showcase. And yeah, you guys let me know down below what you think about this champion, the arena. It's going to be a little bit of testing because I don't really know how to counter all these teams. My arena team is not great, and the test server doesn't take my builds exactly all the time. Like my Kymar is not built like this anymore. So some of these may go a little bit bumpy, but we're going to try our best to see what happens. So let me go ahead and use my Arbiter. She hits, well, I'm not going to spoil it. Is she going to be an arena nuker? I guess we'll find out in just a second, right? All right, so increase attack. We don't need the increased attack like I mentioned before. We can actually just bring Kymar and she would give herself the increased attack, but the turn meter boost from Arbiter is too valuable. Honestly, Lysandra could work perfectly fine as well. Just got to be fast in the arena though, but we do get the increased crit damage. Let's go ahead and see what she hits for. I think she's going to one-shot everybody. Let's see. Boom. So 103,000 damage over there on Astralon. I mean, that's pretty good. That is pretty solid damage. Let's see what she does against somebody like this. So resistance, we have Torment. So I got to bring in Siphi. Now actually, let's not bring in Siphi because the issue with Siphi is that she gives 3 buffs. So she gives increased speed, increased defense, and block debuffs. Block debuffs is great against Torments especially, but the issue is that she prevents Fylja from giving that increased attack and increased crit damage. Now, I would rather bring in Duchess, honestly, because Candrafon's going to smack my team and kill me. My Duchess, though, is not built like she should be, but hey, it doesn't matter. We're going to be perfectly fine. So Duchess, she's not gonna have the increased crit damage, unfortunately, but she should survive when the Candrafon hits me, and I'll have the block debuffs from the Torment. My Kymar, well, maybe I don't even get a turn. Maybe all of it was for nothing. There we go. Luckily, he landed the sleep on the Candrophon. That could be a nasty situation if he didn't. So let's see what Fylja hits for here. We have a little bit of a tankier setup here, right? Tormund plus a Candrophon, maybe a weak hit. Let's go ahead and see. Now, we're not going to get a 100% turn meter boost, obviously. Simple math says that 15 times 1, 2, 3, 4, what, 60% turn meter? I think that's what it is, 15, 15, 30, and then 60 total. So 60% turn meter boost definitely helps her get back around to another turn. This A2 ability, let's check it out in here. So we're going to do it on Tormund. Not really. We're not actually going to do it on Tormund. If I get back around to my turn, we'll do it on Tormund. All right, so he's, oh my gosh, Lydia, you messed me up. All right, let's go ahead and jump back in here, do it again. We'll only use the A2 ability just to see what it hits for. That Lydia set me up. She set me up for failure. All right, so clearly he has 2 test server victories, so it makes sense why I'm losing, right? But let's see. So we will do the exact same thing, but we'll just use Fylja's A2 ability, and we'll zap down Tormund, hopefully. Hopefully, Candrophon gets slept again, thank goodness. I tell you what, whenever Kymar misses a sleep on the Candrophon, it feels so bad every single time. Let's see what she does. A2, zap on the Tormund for 101,000 damage. So she has some pretty mean single target damage, I gotta say. That's pretty solid. Candy's about to mess me up. Dagnabbit. So I needed that decreased attack from her, but it doesn't matter. I just want to see that A2 damage from Fylja. I think it's pretty solid. So some of these teams you're going to be able to blow through no problem, and some are going to be more difficult, of course, right? This one's going to be more difficult. We have the new champion over there. But hopefully that was a decent arena little test there. Let's see what we got happening here. We should be able to sleep everything. Maybe not. Maybe not be able to sleep everything, but we'll see. So slept everything. Perfect. Candrophons are so annoying against Magic Affinity champions, period, though. But if we get decreased attack, doesn't matter. It's going to be perfectly fine because Candrophons don't really nuke much on decreased attack. A part of me wants to get rid of this Warlord because he's so annoying, but we're just going to use our A3 to nuke everything down. And not quite. Duchess reduces AoE damage dealt, so it's kind of to be expected, right? Didn't really... Oh, but she's going to get another turn. She's going to get back around to another turn, I do believe, before... Well, not before she dies. Not quite before she dies, unfortunately. Obviously, we're having a hard time keeping her alive. But it is what it is. Let's go ahead and jump in here and see what her base stats are real quick. But you can get an idea, okay? Obviously, if you build her properly with a team, she could possibly be decent. I think most people are going to have better options for nukers in the arena. I definitely don't think she's a nuker in the arena. I think she can be built with some damage. It makes sense, but I think her main specialty comes from being able to cycle around to that A2, get some good full turn meter decrease on a pretty low cooldown, especially when you consider that she's getting it back around from this ability. It's already a decently low cooldown, 4 turns, so even against single target bosses who she's not going to get huge turn meter boost from, this will still be nice. Make her fast, make her accurate, and she can probably do pretty good in most dungeons for you. And she even brings the ability to do decent damage, so she can have a multi-functioning role. So she benefits from that crit rate even more because she's actually doing some damage when she hits, right? So I do like her. I think she's a solid champion. She looks neat, but her base HP, let's look at her base stats. So base HP, 14,000, base attack, 1,300, 14,000 base HP. Let's see what it's like compared to Royal Guard, so a little bit less than Royal Guard. Somebody else, let's see, another legendary, Leors. So he's 18,000. He's a legendary though, so this chick, 16,000 and 18,000 defense-based champion there though. So her base HP seems to be on the lower side of things. Not terrible. She's not going to be impossible to keep alive. Where is her base defense at though? Her base defense is 1,024 compared to somebody like Royal Guard. That's looking pretty decent. I think 1,000 is somewhere in the okay range for a lot of these attack-based champions. So if you throw some HP percentage stuff on her, some defense percentage stuff on her, she may not be super difficult to keep alive. So yeah, keep that in mind. I do have crit damage, obviously amulets on her, reaction ring. So that just happens to be my best one that I guess I had. I don't know. But either way, guys, let me know what you guys think about Fylja. I'm going to do some other videos on these other fusion champions very, very soon. But I think she has some pretty solid uses. So we'll talk about her. We'll talk about the actual fusion champion here soon. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one.